Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Bernardston Select Board meeting for Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. And just to note, this is a joint meeting with the Finance Committee tonight. You don't have a quorum yet?
I don't have a quorum yet.
Okay. So everybody understands, this meeting is being broadcast live on BNC TV and live streamed on YouTube. To find BNC TV on YouTube, search for Bernardston-Northfield Community Television. This meeting will be available for later viewing by following the link at thetownofbernardston.org. We'll start tonight with entertaining a motion for the payroll warrant in the amount of $56,272.91.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion for the vendor warrant in the amount of $65,978.26.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion for the regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion for the special meeting of December 28th, 2022.
Second. So moved.
Second.
That's a
I
test.
want to get this over with.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Calendar and announcements. The Board of Assessors will be meeting Thursday, January 12th, 2022 at 2 p.m. at the Town Hall. The Fire and Water District Commissioners will be meeting Thursday, January 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the district offices on 295 South Street. On Tuesday, January 17th, the Fire Station Building Committee will be meeting here at the Town Hall at 4 o'clock p.m. Next up, any citizens' concerns that are not already on the agenda?
In the back room, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Trill, if you'd step ahead just so we can catch you on the mic so the people on TV land can hear you. That would be great. Thank
Can I
you.
sit right here, or
You absolutely
do you want
can.
me standing? Lovely. So I have a copy for you here of just something that you can hang on to if you want.
Okay.
Or, I wrote it just
Okay.
to try to keep me to a sort of a script without going on.
I have a copy, please.
I just have this one, I'm afraid.
In the future, there are 3 select board men. And
This is just a citizens' concern time during the
No.
select board
Oh.
meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, what are we doing here? I'm a citizen. I don't deserve a right to
It's
see
his
it.
turn to speak, Steve, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to have a conversation at this time. My name is Jim Trill, and as you may be aware, my wife Wendy and I are residents of Bernardston, both retired and on a fixed income. And my desire at some point is to serve the town in some form or another, whether that be as a member of a town board or taking up a position on the school committee. So before entering into this arena, I wanted to gain some clear insight into the educational needs and the general needs of our families in Bernardston and our children. So what better way to do it than to work at the school? And I work currently at Northfield Elementary, across the river, part of the school district.
There's a door right there.
But that's great because I've got my foot in both sides.
There you go.
Live in Bernardston, work in Northfield. But in my current role as a principal in Northfield, I've been privy to the specific needs, particularly those of our children. Education, as you know, today has changed dramatically from what we can recall from our education. And our children need us to respond to those changes. They need our help and they need our support. Our own children received an excellent education from the Pioneer District, from the elementary, the middle and the high school. And in fact, our children attended Pioneer when they were nationally recognized as leaders within the educational industry. Now, unfortunately, those days are behind us. They're not forgotten. And most importantly, they can return to our towns. New families are the lifeblood of our towns, and we must continue to offer them a reason to settle in this area. Education is top of the list when it comes to families making the difficult decision to relocate or purchase a home. We need to let our families know that we will meet the increasing needs of our children's education. Wendy and I were blessed to have our children educated in a district where education was valued and funded. I asked the board and all of the Bernardston families to stand alongside the district at a time when they need us most. We must fully fund the schools to ensure our children have a viable future. I know it might be painful at times. However, Wendy and I are prepared as citizens to pay forward what our prior generations have done for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Enter that. Thank you. Okay, next up, we'll start with any other citizens' concerns before we start that aren't already on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our first appointment. Superintendent Kinsella and Director of Finance Jordan Burns. Please come up to the table. Melissa, you can come up too if you want.
slide that.
Do I slide these over?
Now that we have a seat.
Now that you do you mind passing these ones down? These are new ones for today, Stan.
Oh, you can sit right next to Patricia.
Does everybody have a version 4.0? Jane, you have the...
No, this is 3.
No, it's 4.
Oh, it's 4, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong line.
folks up at...
I'll take another one
Where
now. Thank you.
didn't put on.
Appreciate it.
Can
I got it. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. And these are available. I'm so sorry, we didn't have enough for all of those.
I might have extra.
And we might have extra.
I
These
do.
are on our website. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Here's another one, if somebody wants.
Just our arm. Oh, wait, this is an extra one. You're welcome. Brett, I heard about...
How are you? I'm good. Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
We made it here.
If
that's
I may,
how
Brian, as we're getting settled in, I want to recognize, we have interim principal Cindy Schultz with us in the audience. Our
How you doing? Welcome.
Building administrator. We're so happy that she came. Thank you, Cindy. And for folks watching at home, hello, I'm Patricia. Where should I be looking? Up there. Hi, I am Patricia Kinsella. I'm the superintendent of Pioneer Valley Regional School District, and I am so happy to be in Bernardston this evening. We were in Bernardston yesterday? No, yesterday.
Yes.
For folks at home, what we are sharing tonight will be on the district website when I get home today. On the district website, go to the home page and under departments, if you click, there will be a drop-down menu and you will see finance, and under finance you will see FY24 budget development. Tonight's slideshow and the draft version of the budget will be on there. Thanks.
All right, I might have given my version of the budget to someone in the audience.
Oh, here.
Well, no, I have an extra. It was just, mine has writing on it, all especially appropriate, but I just didn't want to lose my notes. Right, so thank you everybody for having us. I know for people like Brian, some of this will be a review, but we want to get everybody kind of up to speed at where we're at in the budget process. I will try to go through it fairly quickly, only because I think sometimes some of the best stuff comes afterwards with the questions people have, and I want to save time for that. And you know, as we've been telling everybody at each of these meetings we have with different stakeholders, part of the reason we're coming at this point in the process is there's still time to update, adjust the budget. So we want to seriously take into account feedback that we get from you all, and you know, see if we can incorporate it into the budget and make it stronger by having additional stakeholder input. So without further ado, I'll get into it. So we want to start off on the first page here to look at our budget priorities, right? What's driving our budget process, the things we want to accomplish. Manage Warwick's departure and its long-term impacts. You know, Warwick now has commissioner approval to become its own district, and that impacts obviously the remaining towns and the school district as a whole. So we know that's a top priority to manage that. We also want to, despite that financial impact, we want to continue to make strategic investments to create a vibrant and sustainable future for the district. And we want to complete our facilities master plan to support the educational vision and be able to prioritize any future capital projects we might do. So those are the priorities. And so getting into the Warwick departure and the financial implications, the slide that says Warwick departure overview of impact kind of shows all the different financial impacts without going line by line. The overall impact of Warwick's departure, having been updated several times, is over $400,000 negative for the district. So that takes into account the additional tuition revenues and some of the other revenues and all the reductions in expenses that we'll have, but it's still a negative. So over $400,000. So that's something that we need to wrestle with as we develop a budget. But hopefully by the end of the presentation, you all be convinced as well that we are managing this departure well. We have a plan, and this budget 4.0 shows that plan. But just briefly on slide 5, talking about managing the Warwick departure, how are we going to do that? One of the things we're going to do is use more offsets, right? We need to finish expending all of our ESSER 3 money. So that's one thing that will contribute to our ability to manage the Warwick departure. We are going to have reductions in district administration. So things like special reserve contribution, health insurance costs, and school choice and charter expenses. Those expenses are going to go down relative to this current school year. So those are areas where we're going to see reductions in costs in this budget. And NES staffing. So Warwick students at the elementary years currently attend NES and FY24, and during the next fiscal year, those students will be in Warwick. So I think it makes sense that NES would see a reduction in staffing, right? If there's less students there, there's probably going to be less educators. So that's one area also where we're going to reduce expenses in this budget. So on slide 6, we get to the proposed budget that I know probably many of you have already taken a look at. And relative to FY23, the overall local spending will go down $403,848, or 2.65% compared to this year. And that spending assumes a 5% increase in assessments. That's, I know we've kind of gone around about this a couple times, but just to clarify, overall spending is going to go down. And when we talk about 5%, we're talking about first taking out Warwick's contribution and then adding 5% to that total for next year. So it's not going to both be towns' percentages are going to go up, and there's going to be 5% on top of this year's total assessments. It's first take away Warwick, then add 5%. So of course there'll be, once we actually calculate the assessments, some towns might be 5.1, others might be 4.9, but essentially that's how we're working with it, because we're still working with DESE to see how we're actually going to calculate the assessments without Warwick, but essentially it's a 5% increase is what we're looking at. But overall spending would decrease in that budget, both from an all funds and from the local portion budget. That's a lot of information. Maybe you should take a breath and see if anyone has any questions at this point.
I have one.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You said you're going to expend down all the ESSER funds.
Yeah.
That takes care of this year, but that $408,000 loss from Warwick, that's going to be like every year.
Yeah.
So what happens in consequent years when you don't have that ESSER money?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one your colleague Brian queued us up for about the non-recurring expenses using non-recurring funds to fund recurring expenses, and the vast majority of the spending we're doing with ESSER is non-recurring, meaning things like the facilities master plan one time. We're doing subsidies for before and after, which we see as a benefit to the towns as a result of the pandemic, something that we might not do forever, but coming out of the pandemic, we see it as pandemic related. So that's another non-recurring expense. So there's a minority of the money going towards some recurring expenses, but even those really are results of the pandemic that we think will go down over time. For example, the need for more substitute teachers, right? So when teachers are out now for 5 days, because that's the requirement, right? If you have COVID, you need to be out 5 days. Some of the staffing that we see resulting potentially from impacts of the pandemic that we have now, we don't anticipate having in future years. That was a long answer. The short answer is, I think that without those funds, we'll be able to fund the school going forward. And I think that there are areas that we're going to continue to see reductions. For example, even the NES staffing, when you see some of the classes coming up, there's additional potential in FY25, for example, for fewer sections again. So we're not committed, and we'll talk about it more, but we're committed to continuing to reassess and staff based on how many students we have, based on need, not just, if we traditionally have 8 sections, we're always going to have 8 sections. I don't think that that's how we're going to budget going forward. Yep.
Jane?
Oh,
I
sorry.
had a question about the OPEB. That's Warwick's payment to the district,
Yes.
and that will go directly into the OPEB account?
No.
Yes, it should. Otherwise, it's a penalty to the rest of us when we have to start funding that.
What? Oh, so you're saying that?
We should be having an OPEB trust fund, just as the towns do. And that payment is for OPEB and should go into that trust fund.
Sure. I can see that perspective. In terms of the town's perspective, my thought would be, essentially it's a reduction for all the other towns in terms of what they're going to need to fund. So I wouldn't necessarily see it as a negative.
Not going to change our share. This is their share.
Right, but what I'm saying is,
It's kicking an expense down the road, as far as I'm concerned. If you take that money and spend it now on whatever, it just delays paying that. If they're paying us OPEB money, it should go into the OPEB account.
sorry,
That's just my opinion.
no, I should have explained better. Apologies. So that $120,000 is for the amount that is actually occurring. So it's not for future expenses. So, for example, we pay, the calculation of their portion is a percentage of what we're actually paying to current retirees. Like, for example, for Franklin Regional Retirement, for their health insurance, so it'll be recalculated each year. So it's not a one-time payment. That will be a payment that happens every year. Depending on life expectancies, but every year, so long as there are still living retirees that worked while Warwick was a member of our district. So that's not a one-time $120,000 payment. That is a $120,000 payment, and then the next year it'll be recalculated again, if that makes sense.
Is it like a pass-through, would you say, Jordan, in some ways?
Yeah, it's really just it's going to be a new recurring revenue, really, that we'll get every year. So that money, it's not to fund future retirees. It's really the portion of current retirement costs we have, and we'll continue to get it. So, but I understand your concern. If it were something for example, funding future retirement costs, and then we used it to fund current operating expenses, that certainly would be a concern. But what we're going to do with it, it's really current money to fund current operating costs, and then we'll get it again the next year.
Then it's not OPEB money.
Well, it's calculated. Sorry, and I know
I
It was
mean, I
used
know
as shorthand,
It took a
sure.
long time to get the calculation of what they owed for the OPEB account for future retirees' benefits.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what this was referring to.
Yep. So this is referring to, right, every year they will be paying a portion of the retiree benefits that we're paying as a district. And they'll
That
continue.
we're currently paying,
Yeah,
not what we have to fund for the future.
right, because they will continue to pay, and it's based on people who did work
I
when
guess
Warwick.
I don't want to take up everybody's
Sure.
time with this, but I'm not understanding your thinking on this at all.
Okay. And maybe we can even do an email exchange or phone call afterwards. And
Something.
yeah, okay.
I'll get a day when I can come over and I'll give you a call.
Sure, good, thank you. Good. Any other questions? Tracking the crowd, good.
The crowd looks good.
And then, I know when thinking about Warwick's departure, one of the first things people would be thinking about is, well, what is that going to look like with enrollments, right, at the respective elementary schools? So we provide several graphs and some different iterations that we looked at as we thought about budgeting. So the first graph, slide 8, is Bernardston, current grade 1 through 6. So as of October 27th, 2022, and I know these things are all changing, and interim principal Schultz might have updated information by 1 or 2 students, but as of October 27th, these numbers were accurate, and these are the class sizes. And really the one thing I'm hoping that everybody can kind of see here is there isn't something like 2 classes, broken up into sections of 10, right? Where you could think, oh, maybe one way we could save money is by having only a single section. The class sizes are fairly well optimized at BES right now. And there's an average class size in this current year of 17.6 students per class.
And this graph showing us that there's 2 classes, if it's dark green and light green?
Yes,
exactly.
sorry, that I should have explained that better. Yep. Yep, so, right, for example, kindergarten, 2 sections, first grade, 2 sections, grade 2, 2 sections, grade 3, 1, grade 4, 1, grade 5, 2, and grade 6, 1. And then the number of students in each of those sections is written on the bar graphs. And then slide 9 looks at the current configuration at Northfield. And so, similarly, the light blue and dark blue show when there's 2 sections. But the average class sizes in grade 1 through 6 is 15.8 students. The reason we focus on grade 1 through 6 is when we're thinking about future years, like next year, we're certain of all those class sizes as of right now, grade 1 through 6. What we're less certain of is the incoming kindergarten class size. So when to have an even comparison, we're not looking at average class size in kindergarten through 6. We're doing grade 1 through 6 because we're thinking about moving them up. So slide 10 shows the dark blue shows Northfield residents, and the light blue shows in each of those classes how many Warwick residents, children are in the class. So, for example, grade 1 is 1 class of 23 students, and it's 16 Northfield residents and 7 Warwick residents. Whereas when you look at grade 2, and this is where things start becoming a little more interesting from a projections point of view and number of classes, grade 2 has 24 Northfield residents and 6 Warwick residents. So theoretically, you could say when those students move up into 3rd grade, maybe that would become 1 section to try to meet some of those fiscal challenges we're talking about with Warwick departing. And similarly, when we look at grade 4th grade, I used to work in a British school, so I keep putting grade first, but 4th grade. I have been an American before, I promise. So 4th grade, when you look at 4th grade, similarly, you can see currently it's 2 sections of 14. However, next, when the Warwick students depart, there's 25 Northfield residents and 3 Warwick resident students. So again, you could say, well, maybe that becomes one class. And I'm sure you all can follow the logic, going through there. And if we turn the page and look at slide 11, on slide 11, what we did is said, well, so what would Northfield Elementary look like next year if everywhere where theoretically you could go from 2 sections to 1, we went ahead and did that. And what happens then is there would be 20.2 students on average in each of those grade 1 through 6 classrooms. And we seriously considered going with that scenario. But after feedback and speaking with the Northfield Elementary School educators, they made a reasonable argument that coming out of the pandemic, student needs are a little bit different than maybe they were, in our recent history, where you might think that 20 students on average per class is pretty reasonable. They talked about some of the increased need, behavior, and recommended that we look at possibly restoring some of those sections. And so ultimately on slide 12, we looked at what is the configuration that we're using in this version 4.0 of the budget, where in grade 3 and 5, we broke up the 2 largest grades into 2 sections. So for example, on slide 12 there are 12 students in 2 sections in in 3rd grade, and in 5th grade there are 12 students and 13 students. Overall, that's an average class size of 15.1 students, which seems pretty reasonable even with the impacts of the pandemic. We think that is a doable average class size, and will lead to good educational outcomes for our students. Slide 13 here shows FY23, BES has 17.6 students per class in grades 1 through 6, NES has 15.8. Going forward, slide 14 shows FY24, there'll be 16.4 students on average in BES and 15.1 students in NES. So despite having some real fiscal challenges presented by the Warwick departure, we feel good about these class sizes, that we'll be able to provide a very high quality education to our students in both elementary buildings. And at the same time, eliminate 2 sections and start to help pay for Warwick's departure by not having all of the sections, by eliminating 2. And in addition, eliminate some support staff positions for classroom instructional assistants that existed previously, because with these class sizes, we felt that some of those instructional assistants would no longer be strictly necessary. Obviously, we realize the huge contributions that those staff contribute to the students, but we do need to be able to fund the Warwick departure, and we do understand that the cost of that departure should probably be borne most directly by the elementary school that the students are leaving from, right? It wouldn't make sense for Bernardston to have many fewer educators if they're going to have essentially the same number of students. So we were cognizant of that and tried to budget to reflect that NES should have staff reductions. Yeah.
On your slide 10, we have it broken down between Warwick and non-Warwick?
Yes.
I know there's not too many school choice children in Northfield, but how many of those are school choice?
How many of the Warwick? None of.
No,
There's 5 school choice kids.
I know you gave us that document the other day. But
There's
some
5
folks might
school
not have.
choice students. Here we go. At Northfield, we've got 2 in grade 1, 2 in grade 2, 1 in grade 5. I'll say it again. 2 in grade 1, 2 in grade 2, and 1 in grade 5.
Total of 5.
5 total, yeah.
You
For
get
this
the
school year.
numbers for Bernardston?
I do. And I will share with this group this document, Jane, which we shared. Kindergarten at Bernardston, it has 3 school choice students. Grade 1 has 3. Grade 2 has 2. Grade 3 has 3. Grade 4 has 5. Grade 5 has 10 students who come to us via school choice. And grade 6 has 5 students, for a total of 31 students who come to us via school choice at BES.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know I gave that home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I wanted it on this chart.
There you go.
You know what?
All
We'll
in one
add it
place.
to the. I'll add it to the slideshow. I'll stick it in before I post it
Yeah,
tonight.
it seems like a lot.
It is.
Huh?
So it is. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
If you're going to have 2 sections at Northfield with 12 students in each section, except for one section would have 13, are you going to advertise your school choice in those 2 grades?
Well,
I don't-
I defer to, ultimately it'll be a school committee decision.
I hope not.
And that's great to, get the feedback. I think, obviously, maybe, Melissa wants to speak to this point, but I think it's from what I understand from speaking to people, it's a bigger discussion we need to have about what do we want to do going forward. And I am happy to be the person who's, makes sense to, but, to be looking at, well, what's the long-term financial impact, and can we budget and plan for this in a way, if, for example, the school committee decides they want to have less school choice seats, well, what does that look like from a budgeting perspective? Can we smooth it out so that no one really feels an impact, and then we're educating, a greater percentage of our residents' children versus, a large percentage of students who come to us via school choice. I'm happy to look at those numbers, and I bet we could figure something out. But ultimately, I certainly defer to the school committee on how many seats.
Do we know what town most of these school choice children come from, Bernardston?
We do. If you hang on a second, I'll see if I have that paper with me.
So as she's looking it up, this is going to be a big school
Yeah.
committee decision that we're gonna have to talk about. And we've had already families on both sides contact us. Current Warwick families who actually would like to continue to keep their children in Northfield are requesting that seats are opened so that their children could get into the lottery. It's basically a lottery system, it's not a guarantee. And so even though Warwick has moved forward with creating their own district, there are families who would like to continue to educate their children in Northfield, but we need to decide whether that is what's best interest for our district. So, and we can also decide based on the grade level. So we could say, looking at grade 1, there's 14 kids, we could open 2 or 3 seats, but with a grade, let's say 14, that's teetering at 19, no seats can be open. So school committee also has that ability to open it in certain places and not just blanket.
Because it's definitely a two-edged sword, school choice, at least in this person's opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I lean toward, it's not a good thing. That's me personally.
Me too.
E3.
I grew up in the days, as you did, where school choice didn't exist.
No.
And there was issues that we didn't have to deal with as school districts now that we do, so.
It wouldn't be so bad if it was more than $5,000 that you were getting.
Correct.
That's
Children,
the truth.
Correct. And that's, well, I won't go there
Yeah,
now, but
right.
for tuition agreement that we have for grades 7 through 12, when Warwick children come to us as their home high school, their tuition agreement is around $17,000. So that is different than school choice, and that's a very different conversation to be having.
So I'm pulling up the school choice. I'm not going to try and sort. This is not by grade. I'm just looking overall. This is receiving students. A lot of kids from Greenfield, Gil Montague, some Irving, Those are the three biggest, Greenfield, Gill, Montague, Irving, not in that order.
Yeah,
Yeah. And a few outliers, Amherst.
really?
Yeah.
We should be reaching out to Urban and see if they'll pay us more.
That's a conversation to be had, Stan, you know how I
Yes.
feel about that.
Yes.
I think that's how a lot of us feel about that.
That is on the forefront.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
We're aware of
The
that one,
conversation will
definitely.
happen.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Do you anticipate that decision being made by the school committee prior to the finalization of this budget?
No, I don't anticipate that.
So the decision has to be made, or has already been made, to have the two-tier grade 3 and grade 5s.
Well, that's what's been presented by administration. Yes. So we as a school committee wouldn't have our school choice decided. I don't think we.
Imagine, because the next school committee meetings are this week. It wouldn't be on this week. The following week wouldn't be on. And the next meeting is February 15th, which is the vote on the budget.
Yeah.
I think the school committee will need a full presentation from Jordan and me, showing the current data stand, for instance,
Yeah.
that you asked for, where are kids coming from. Ken, we've talked about the proportion of kids who come to us via school choice, and we welcome all of these students. The proportion of those students who have special needs. When a student comes via school choice, we get not only the $5,000, but a special education increment that pays for at least a portion of the cost associated with meeting those special needs. What we've said recently is that we appear to be a very attractive district for families who are seeking a school choice option and who have students with disabilities. We have very few students who leave our resident towns and enroll in another district through school choice who have special needs. That proportion is low. The proportion of kids coming in is high. So I think the school committee, I would feel more comfortable if we had the opportunity to present the school committee with a range of information about school choice so that they could consider their options.
Yeah. And I think the budget, when we have the budget vote, that would then guide us even more on a solid foundation of what we would want to do with school choice. Because we could open the slots and have no one apply for them also. So I think having the budget would be, or a vote,
The
presentation.
vote on whether to do school choice comes closer to June than February.
Yes, by law has to be June 1st. It may happen
Yes.
before
I was
then,
going to say it's
but it must
before.
happen by June 1st.
That's what I thought.
So I might be asking an unfair question. Do you remember last year where all the school choice seats offered in BES filled in all the grades
No.
versus all the ones offered in Northfield?
Oh, very few taken up in Northfield, and I think that's an accident, not an geography.
Yeah, it is, definitely is.
There's no one, there's New Hampshire.
Yep.
And then you gotta drive way.
Definitely more commuters passing through this community
Yeah.
for that reason. Yep. So neither school did fill all their
No, I think there's
openings.
still a few seats. And so that's exactly the kind of information we would want to share with school committee so they have a full picture.
Can I ask a technical? So if there's still seats open, somebody could choice in at this point?
Yes.
Or
By law, so I think that, I don't quote me, I think that by law we are able to say, no, thank you, we're not going to accept a student right now. And were we to continue accepting, we could accept all the way through the end of the year.
Okay, but it's a district choice to stop receiving students even though you still have some slots.
I
open.
want to, I would want to check my folder.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem fair to the student or the teacher to be accepting new students at this point through school choice. My opinion.
You do get residents that move into the community.
Yeah.
which
Right,
is
yeah,
different.
but that's different.
Right, absolutely.
And sometimes those residents decide to keep their child where they are
Yep.
for the rest of the school year. I have that happening in my family, so I know that it's.
Right when you move. Yes. Yep.
What else you got?
Well, 2 more slides. So on slide 15, I just also wanted to explain the investments that we're going to make. and touch on the facilities master plan a little bit because those are the two priorities. But I thought probably people were most focused on how are we going to manage work, transition, and departure. So some things that we are going to do, despite the Warwick's departure, we plan on having an environmental educator provide instrumental music at all the way down to grade 4, health education in the middle school, some professional development for our staff in responsive classroom or restorative justice, director of teaching and learning position, and more hands-on learning through a woodshop teacher. And I want to emphasize that as I kind of opened with at the beginning of the meeting about stakeholders and feedback, these weren't just our crazy ideas. These were the crazy ideas of a lot of important stakeholders, our teachers, community, feedback we received about what people wanted in the school district. So as much as possible, we try to be responsive to that feedback and find ways to fit it in the budget creatively. We're also doing investments in the community, the before and after school subsidies, obviously coming out of the pandemic and helping people, I guess, get back to work. Having before and after care can help. In this particular, these subsidies are for students and families receiving free or reduced lunch. I know everybody's technically receiving free, but in terms of the economic qualification, if students qualify for free or reduced lunch, they then qualify for a subsidy in this program. And yeah.
Excuse me. On my cell phone, I have a translator app that somebody speaks French and it translates it into English. Can you tell me what that means to responsive classroom and restorative justice? What is that?
So, and I probably should, in terms of getting really specific, I love talking, but I'll probably defer to Patricia. But really, it's professional development to help our educators deal with some of the behavior needs that we're seeing in schools. But I guess to get more specific.
That was great. Responsive classroom would be used in the elementary buildings. And as Jordan said, it's professional development to help our teachers improve their, and not saying anyone's not doing a great job now, how to establish a school-wide culture of expectations around behavior and training in very specific ways of helping students understand norms of behavior, how to manage themselves, what pro-social behavior looks like. It has a terrific reputation. We have a lot of educators who trained in responsive classroom up to 10 years ago, let's say, which is great. That's a foundation. And for optimal implementation, everyone in the building needs to go through the training so that the child in this classroom, that classroom, when they're in the gymnasium, when they're in the cafeteria, all the adults are using the same kind of language to support behavior, have the same all that. Restorative justice would be at the middle and high school. That would help us place greater responsibility on our students to make decisions. What's the right verb to use? In a Gesundheit. Let's see. In a very kind of old school traditional model, student makes a poor decision, they write graffiti.
I was going to say graffiti.
Use
Use a graffiti.
They get in trouble with the dean of students, and they get punished.
Go to detention.
Yeah, go to detention. That's really ineffective. That doesn't help anybody. A restorative justice approach would help us train some students to work with someone who breaks some of our community norms and help the student who broke our community norms understand the impact of what they've done on the community and figure out what are you going to do to make things better now. So instead of punish.
Good luck. I think it's a great thing to try. I really do.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing now isn't working that well. So
and this prepares our kids for real life, right? Like
the
they need to know how to step forward.
Gone.
Yeah. So Ken, does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
And I
Thank
would
you.
echo Stan's support for it.
So currently you offer instrumental music down to what grade?
5th grade.
Fifth.
So next year you drop down another grade. Okay.
And that's a direct response to our music educators who said for the kids to do well in band up at Pioneer, they really need that extra year, 4th grade. And I remember from my own daughter when she started cello in public school, 4th grade was the
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
used to
it
be.
is sweet spot.
It
Yeah.
used to be 4th grade.
And you're going back to a wood shop teacher?
Yeah, you gonna come volunteer in the wood shop then?
Yeah, you don't want to see me with a nail. That doesn't work too well. But I think that's, wood shop is a good thing for the students to be involved in.
And it's just sitting right now, right? It's there. It can function.
As in the tools
The tools, the wood shop, the
is there.
hand
exhaust
tools,
system,
Yeah.
the, you know,
At what facility?
Pioneer.
Pioneer.
Okay.
All the hand tools are fine, right? But not the,
They need some sharpening, there needs to be some cleanup. Some of the big power tools have been in operation by our facility staff. You know, when they need to cut some lumber, we have table saws, we've got jigsaws.
Yeah.
We are thinking we won't start with use of the big equipment. When we reopen the wood shop, we'll wait, let's get things going and then we'll.
well, I know that the safety requirements and power tools has changed over the years, and it seems like they change every year, so I wonder if they're even viable at this point.
Well, we've already consulted with our insurance carrier, who has talked to their carrier, and we will be good to go. When those tools are used, we need to have a certified person running the wood shop.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
excellent, thank you.
And then in investment facilities, the facilities master plan. So we've been working with FERCog to help create and now post the RFQ, and we have some interested parties. I think people have been downloading the RFQ, so that process is moving forward. I think later this month is the walkthrough. And this month is pretty far along,
Yeah.
so I should probably look that up. But the point is, that project is moving along. It's a real thing and it's going to happen.
And that's to all 3 schools, correct?
All 3 schools.
Yep.
Yep. And so we will be welcoming town participation, obviously, with the 2 elementary schools,
Yep.
as they are your buildings. And this is big stuff.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
be
good.
partners in this.
We're glad you're doing that. Appreciate that.
So you'll include us in the walkthrough?
We'll be offered the walkthrough, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So upcoming budget meetings next Tuesday. On the agenda there will be schools, so the individual buildings, the 3 buildings, athletics, technology, health services. 25th will be transportation, early education, special education, shared instructional services, curriculum and professional development. February 9th, public hearing, and that's where we're going to get the full budget. So all funds and proposed local expenditures and the full breakdown of all revenues and expenditures. Any questions?
Can I ask a question? I'm very glad that Patricia is here. I love the enthusiasm. I haven't met you before, but
Thank you,
I
Karen.
know things about you. But I do have some concerns, especially about the administrative costs. And one thing that really jumped out at me was the salary increase for the dean of students. It's like a 33% increase. That's unheard of. And in other businesses, I realize this is school, but it's usually brought up gradually. I mean, for that type of increase, these increases add up. And I'm going to be here with the library trustees a little bit later, and we're going to be nickel and diming an employee who's been here for almost 20 years. So I really hope the school committee takes these increases into consideration. I'm a big supporter of education. But there are some very large line item increases.
Yeah.
And I do hope that when you look at school choice and accepting students, that you figure out whether it's worth, at $5,000 a student, how many students does it take to pay for an extra teacher? I mean,
A lot.
a lot.
Because it's not just salary.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're having these meetings, because when I was on the school committee years ago, I used to complain because people would show up at the last minute and they wouldn't attend any of the prior meetings, so. Still happens.
Maybe we respond.
Yes.
Who wants to respond? Melissa, do you want to respond?
So I will say, I had the exact same reaction about the Dean of Students that you did when I saw it. However, my reaction started with, I can't believe we've been paying her that position less than some of our top teachers as an administrator. So one, I was taken back that, I was a teacher for 12 years, and I left teaching in 2017, and I made more money at a local district being a teacher than being an administrator, dean of students. So on the one hand, I was absolutely dumbfounded that that is what we're paying that position for the responsibilities and every single athletic game that they go to. And then on the flip side, the increase of the position, knowing that eventually there will be a retirement in a position at some point in the future, we could not get, if we are hiring just for Dean of Students, at the current $60,000 that's in the budget. So yes, can it be smaller, incremental, as you had suggested? But I think there's a lot of things at play with that specific position. And I know that our administrative costs have gone up. That is loud and repeated on a very regular basis. So that is something that it has been looked at. And I'm just here also as a member of the budget subcommittee. I am not the chair. I'm just a member of the full committee and specifically this, so the budget. So it's a little bit of a response.
I do understand
Yeah.
the need to pay for quality people.
Totally, I hear, yes.
But
It is,
it's very hard on communities that have a large population of elderly
Yes.
people on fixed income.
absolutely, absolutely, yes. All points that are often stated, yeah.
Mr. Trill.
If Jim Trill, current resident, fixed income, I am stating that because my wife and I live in the town and we're on a fixed income. I left, sorry to say, the Pioneer District in 2007 to take the Dean of Students position in Orange on a $68,000 salary. And that was in 2007. So, the point you mentioned, to get the right person, our job went from 6:15 in the morning till 10 at night. Our job was to be at the school before the students got there. It's a long day. And we left after the athletics at night. So most of our evenings we were watching all of the sports. And that's a choice. I understand that's a choice I made. But suitable recompense for doing the job was $68,000 in 2007. And I worked there for 4 years. Took over the role of principal, looked after the middle and the high school. And as a Dean of Students, I was at $84,000 in 2011. So our struggle is to actually get the right people. And I think that's where we find ourselves, in attracting the quality people to come to our district to run the programs and provide our students with what they need. That's the unfortunate crux where we find ourselves.
How large a student body did you work with when you were Dean of Students?
Over 600 plus.
See, there's a big difference in
Yeah.
numbers of students in Pioneer District.
Right. And
I really believe that makes a difference for
it
such a small district.
truly does. We had 2 deans of students, So essentially I was looking after the middle school at the time, and there was 270 students, and then the high school dean of students as well, and then there was the principal, and that's in Orange. But we understand, the troubles that Orange has gone through. So I just wanted to give a perspective.
You mentioned, I'm confused, you don't take a salary from Northfield? You don't get paid for work at Northfield?
I do at the moment,
Then
yes.
you can't be on a fixed income then?
Oh, I certainly am.
How, you got a job, you're working?
At this moment, my tenure is 1 year.
Well, right now, you're not on a fixed income then.
But on a FY24, respectfully,
Hopefully you'll stay longer than 1 year.
No,
No.
Can't.
I can't.
Can't.
I can't.
He's
Oh,
an interim principal.
You
He's
can't hire him or?
No.
No, you're not allowed to. I have to. I'm doing this on a reduced salary on what I earned
Sorry to hear that. 'cause,
4 years ago. So 4 years
He
ago,
saved us.
respectfully, 4 years ago, I was earning more money as a principal than what I'm earning now.
Oh,
This
you're a
1
great
year,
guy.
and I've taken this 1 year job to find out what the educational needs are for our families. So that's before I take a position or I look for a position within the town.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Karen,
What
Yes,
number
I
are we
do.
looking at for the bottom line
Jane has
here?
one more
have-
question first, Dan.
It's not a question, it's a statement.
Okay.
A few years ago, and I wish I could remember the exact year, the Dean of Students position was eliminated in the budget process.
Right.
And by the end of the process, it was put back in as part-time. And I think that's why we're at the $60,000 level. You can go back and check all your history. I'm not going to
Yeah.
bother to do it on my computer.
No, you're
I
right.
got other things to do. But I believe that's why this looks as low as it does. Somehow the hours went up, but the dollars never did.
And I believe the negotiation, and again,
Yeah, there's
someone who is, I believe there was also something to do with the teacher's salary, the teacher's schedule also. There was something within it
Okay.
to negotiate getting it back, but not fully funding it, was to mirror the teacher salaries or something, like it, yeah, but
That's
it
very
was going to be
helpful.
eliminated, it was
It was definitely a part-time.
within,
part-time.
within
That's why the salary.
7 years, it's
Yeah.
within
Okay.
7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Karen, if I may, because you didn't have your hands on the budget until yesterday. And as someone, Karen was a longtime member of the school committee in Pioneer, so I'm grateful for your bringing your historical perspective and for your digging in immediately and looking at these numbers carefully. So I hope you will keep doing that, because when you ask us these good questions, it forces us to come up with good answers and consider what we're doing. So thank you. You're welcome.
Stan.
What's the number that we're, the bottom line number? You got two columns here, FY '24 all funds and then FY '24 local.
Yep. So those are,
So what is the bottom line budget number?
so the local is that 14,824,075. So in terms of a comparison, if you look at the column D, last year's budget is 15,227,923.
Okay.
And local really means less these grants and ESSER funds.
Yep. Yep.
Doesn't really mean what the towns pay.
It's true, right? Because you still got Chapter 70. The towns are going to pay only a fraction of that 14 million.
We hope.
Correct,
small
I understand that. I just wanted
Yep.
to get the bottom line number, what column I'm actually looking at.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a number that you'll be taking for a vote.
Well, we still have a couple iterations of the budget to go. So we're taking feedback again tonight. We've got that hearing next week to talk about the elementary schools. We've got the third hearing to talk about special education. Next week is health services. So I wouldn't, Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I wouldn't want to say that this is an ironclad number. As we keep refining, it could move a little either way.
But I think it's going to be close. Actually, I think we can say with 100% certainty it won't be this number,
Right.
Because there's still movement, but it'll be something close. Like, there's certainly no room for a 1% movement in either direction, just to throw a number out there. It's gonna be a fraction of a percent.
He's still trying to finalize numbers, like heating oil is just an easy
Right,
example.
right.
Once he knows that, that'll be a real number he'll plug in. I know you've been
Yeah.
digging through health insurance costs.
Yeah.
Once you have a better handle on that, that'll be a
Yeah.
closer number.
Is it helpful to we mention nothing about the governor's numbers aren't going to be available until after the vote?
Sure.
And that's the way it always is,
Yeah.
just about.
This year it's later than normal.
Yeah, with the new governor.
Usually pretty late.
So, right, so that'll also, well, I guess that
That's
process could lead to a
Well,
need
and
for
that
an amendment.
fluctuates right through the whole state process.
Yep. Yep.
The governor proposes a budget, then the House proposes a change, then the Senate proposes a change, then they have a joint meeting that proposes a change, and then it has to go back to the House and the Senate for votes, and then it winds up on the governor's desk, which may not be till summer.
That's
Right. But I think we'll have better estimates, at least by the time the towns vote. So between the school committee approved and when the towns vote, there might be a necessity for amendment there as well.
So can I ask a question?
Of course.
It ties into budget, but it's not strictly budget for how the assessments are gonna work. I know you were reaching out to legal counsel to figure out how it was gonna work now that Warwick stepped back. As many of us know, it's a 5-year average.
Rolling average.
Did we land on what legally they're gonna tell us you have to do to figure that? We're still
No.
taking a stab right now.
I talked with Cammie today. I know Cammie Lamika, our fiscal overseer, is working with Jordan to look at this a bit, but we have not heard from Desi. Is that correct?
It's true.
Just because that affects our multiplier and what we pay.
Yep.
That's why we want to know that.
Yep. No, I want to know it as well, so I can, 'cause
Yeah.
I know that,
I would hope that they would leave it, just change this year. Leave the previous years the way they were. Forget Warwick's no longer in. Those were the percentages that everybody paid. And the change came this year with
Yep.
Warwick out, so that changes the percentage. Percentage was gonna change anyway. It's just gonna change more because Warwick wasn't there.
And that'll have to be approved by the state either way, I
Yeah.
would think, right?
Mhm.
Because it's
Yes,
so
because everything
unusual.
has to be, all
Yeah.
the big financial stuff has to be
So-
approved. So that's a great point, Brian. Like, they will have the authority in the end
In
to
the
say.
end, no matter what we all think.
Karen's got her.
Go ahead.
I just was wondering, it used to be that 3 out of the 4 towns had to vote to approve the budget. What is it gonna be now? Is it
2 out of
all
3.
3, 2 out of 3?
It's a majority. The district agreement says a majority, so I would say it's 2 out of 3. Wouldn't you?
You know, I think this is going to be another one where in the end, the
Yeah.
state is going to tell
Yeah.
us. Because Warwick, until June 30th, is officially a member. It makes no sense for them to vote on the budget. Makes no sense. But I will feel most comfortable when we get the DESI attorney's letter saying, we've reviewed this, we've reviewed the state law around regional school district budgets, and we have determined this.
So have you asked them if Warwick can vote on the budget?
Well, I think that conversation will come up as we discuss the assessments. So we initially reached out about assessments, but I anticipate that conversation will also delve into voting.
That could get dicey.
Well, the first vote where Warwick is going to have input is when you approve the budget.
Right.
Sure, because that's
There's
what
a
many
lot.
members
And you have 3 Warwick members on the committee.
So maybe I'm missing it here, but the loan we currently have with the state of Massachusetts,
Yep.
Warwick's responsible for a piece of that. Is that included in this OPEB number?
Nope, they've already paid that money back, and we will apply that, we will apply that to the, in
Principal.
addition to, yes, to the principal. So we're, in this year, and FY24's budget, we'll have a lot lower debt service amount because we're taking that $25,000, I believe, and we apply it to the principal. So we refinance a smaller amount of money than we would have otherwise.
With the increased interest rates, that's a good thing, right?
Great
Yeah.
thing.
That was a district agreement condition.
Yeah.
That
I knew that answer too after I said it.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
okay.
you, though.
There's
You
a
just
lot-
ask it.
Timeline? Where are the crunch points?
For this budget development? I think the last slide might be helpful there. Let's open it up again.
Yeah, slide 16.
Second to last, yeah.
Yeah. So those are, I mean, realistically, every day is a crunch point for the budget, just because we want to continue as we get feedback from all the interested parties, continue to update the budget. But in terms of outward facing, the 17th, 25th, and February 9th are the big ones, going forward, where we need to be continually refining our numbers and
Then you ship it off to the state and they approve it.
Well, there's a vote on the 15th, so that we will add that to the slide.
Yeah, I was going to say
The
that.
15th of,
February.
okay.
Is
So
the school
February
committee
9th is a
vote.
Thursday. That public hearing will take place in the Kiva. That will be televised. And we'll send a link to that. We'll put the link on the district webpage. That's the full hearing, as Jordan said, with the full budget. That's a Thursday by district agreement. And thank you, Jane, for educating me about this last year. That caused me to have to dive into the legal agreements. By the district agreement, the school committee must vote on or before February 15th. So that is a Wednesday. We have moved the school committee meeting that would have happened on the Thursday to the Wednesday. So February 15th is the vote.
from the state perspective, good question. We're working with our financial overseer constantly, making sure she has Cammie has every iteration of the budget and discuss it, because ultimately in terms of the commissioner's approval, Cammie has to write a recommendation, so it's good to have her in early so that she's a part of the process and we'll be able to recommend the budget.
Right.
It's kind of meeting the criteria for approval.
And we should let the public know that we have to have DESI's approval because we have this loan with them. Every school district doesn't have to have DESI's approval on their budget.
Yep.
That's right.
Just people in situations that we're in.
Yes, that's true. It's part of the special legislation. One thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if this will lead to more questions, but on slide 15, as we talk about the investments, I do want to mention, I think it's important because I do get the, how people might hear we're making all these investments when Warwick's departing, and kind of, well, how are we going to pay for these, kind of similar to Stan's question originally. And I think it's probably good to emphasize that many of these investments come from finding efficiencies in scheduling. So using our existing staff in different ways to be able to provide more of what people are asking for. So several of these, like the instrumental music teacher, health education, and even really the woodshop teacher, were able to be funded by looking at the schedule and saying, hey, can we do things a little bit differently next year so that we can, for $0, provide more for our students. And then responsive classroom, and the before and after school subsidies, facilities master plan, that's all ESSER money, right? One-time stuff, one-time money for one-time use items. Director of teaching and learning is really for lack of a better word, reimagination of an existing position. It's not a new position. It's reimagining kind of the curriculum coordinator into a position with more responsibility. So I just wanted to emphasize that as well. We are looking for any free money, any free ability to invest and do things differently to provide more programming to our students. We do understand that not every problem solution is more money. A lot of times it's just looking at things differently, being more creative, and the more we can do of that, I'm sure the more support we'll have from the communities, because we should be doing that, trying to find all the free solutions to difficult problems to provide better education.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Anybody out there have any questions of them while they're here? Appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
Just wrap it up by saying, appreciate your energy. You've been very forward since you've been on the staff for the superintendent. Haven't really got to know you too much, Jordan, yet, but I'm sure we will. I'm not sure about the budget. I mean, we got to go through our town budget, and there's a lot. You know, we're trying to get a fire station. That's going to cost us a lot of money, and we'll have to work through those processes. But it's encouraging to hear that you're trying to find ways to do things without just adding dollars, and because we just don't have the dollars. I know, like Jim says, we gotta hire we gotta pay the money to get the best, and sometimes you just can't get the best. You have to try to go down a step. But I appreciate what you folks are doing.
Wow, Stan, that means a lot to me. Thank you.
And I'm not sure how I'll vote on the budget, but the 1% decrease would probably make me feel better. Gotta put my plug in there. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sure, we can pass them out. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Brandon, Cushman Library Board of Trustees. All those involved, come on up so we can
Jim, you can come back to Bernardston.
get you on the microphone.
Here we go.
Yeah, especially if you want to speak, it's easier to pick it up on the microphone up here. You can drag extra chairs up if you need to. At least get a little closer. How's everybody doing tonight?
Fabulous.
Fabulous? Nice. Okay, Brandon, you requested some time.
Yes, so were you able to receive our budget? through
Yes.
My email? Okay.
Yep.
Because mine came out really tiny, so I was hoping you guys were able to print it out. I do most everything off my phone.
That's
so-
smaller than the one we have.
Yeah. No, that's why I brought these three with me, because they got better eyes than I do.
Did you print that out for us?
Yeah, we got it last
Gave it to you yesterday, Stan.
Mine's in my other folder at home.
Okay, I see it. Boy.
So,
I got
you got yours?
I do.
Okay.
And
So-
it's sideways, you can see it.
Who's got a magnifying glass?
That's
Can I
okay.
Good, John, make-
couple copies of the?
Sure.
I'll make copies.
I just want mine back, that's all.
Thank you, Jim.
So one of the problems that we were actually approached with very recently with our new budget here is that we have our assistant librarian that's actually leaving, going for a different job. This has been an ongoing problem with, not really a problem, but an ongoing eye-opening experience that it's just being used as a stepping stone. And when we train someone, or when our director trains, spends all the time training, and they end up leaving. So with this, the trustees decided that we would like to eliminate that position altogether, and then offer Karen 35 hours a week instead of her normal 28 hours a week. This would basically keep the budget for staff the same and wouldn't increase. Or if it is, it's a very small increase. Anybody else need a larger one?
It's a decrease
I would take a
actually
larger one.
per week,
Thank you.
because it would be adding 7 hours to Karen Stinchfield's director position.
So you want to eliminate the assistant.
Yeah, assistant librarian.
Add 7 hours of Karen.
And then one of the other things that we're actually, Karen has quite a bit of vacation time built up, which we're kind of actually encouraging her to use it. So there's an extra in there for coverage that we would use our librarian assistants that we have to take over her spot. So you'll see that small line item in there as well. And then basically everything we're trying to keep, you know, as close as possible to what we think actual expenditures will be. And then of course, the oil one is our biggest question, along with everybody else's, where we're going to be at with that. That's our largest, our basically increase would be that. Everything else we've tried to keep as basically the same.
And Karen has actually saved money on the phone system, on technology, and tuition and training for the staff. Right now, we have really good assistant librarians. We have Mary McGinn, Peggy Shippa, and Audrey, and I don't recall her last name, but this is the first time we've had a chance to have stable staffing without people constantly coming and going, and it takes up a lot of Karen's time. She also was able to get a $15,000 grant to work on the electrical, which is knob and tube. And let's see what else. I just took some notes that I thought would be helpful. There's over 46% of Bernardston residents who have library cards, and that doesn't include, say, a mother that goes and gets books for her children. This, is a bare bones budget minus the fixed costs and mandated costs for accreditation.
Of those 46% of the residents that have a card, how many actually utilize the service on a monthly basis, let's say?
Monthly basis, I don't know.
We actually had Karen is actually going to be putting that stuff together for next year, so we can actually have those numbers. Because it's always kind of nice to know who's coming through.
I think there's a lot of people, like I have a card, and I can't tell you the last time I went to the library and took a book out.
Yeah. Well, shame on you. You should come in more often.
Everybody's going to the internet.
I know.
It's just easier.
And after listening to the presentation, and I'm a large supporter of education, but for us having to nickel and dime an employee of the town who's been here for almost 20 years, I mean, she doesn't even make a living wage. Some of our town employees should not have to be applying for fuel assistance, and it's just not right.
I'm sure you're going to get invited again to Jane's
Yes, you are.
finance committee
Well,
meetings.
yeah, we
for
were
the
kind of
budget
waiting,
stuff.
like we did a couple years ago and last year, have you before coming here.
Yeah, let's just get started.
Well, we
now.
just started.
Okay, all right.
Because the budgets were due January 1st.
Mhm.
So we set up the schedules the other night. You'll be getting an email from me in the next few days when
Okay.
I have time to do it
Yep.
with a date that we are suggesting for you. I don't remember off
Yeah, I
the
don't
top of my
remember
head.
I know a couple years ago you gave us guidelines, like the increases, the 2.5% increase you gave to basically across the board. We didn't know if you were.
sent that memo. Didn't Karen share that memo with you? or
We
did
haven't
you get
gotten
it?
one. We haven't gotten one yet, as far as
It
what
went
the
out in
guidelines
November.
were.
Number 4.
About how Jane
To
wanted
get,
to-
to submit your budget, level fund your wages, because we
Well,
don't know
we're-
what the future brought.
We're close here anyway.
Yeah. And actually, the difference between the assistant librarian, when they work 10 hours and Karen working 7 hours, is a gain of like, I don't know, $6 or something. It's in the positive column because it's
Right.
actually a little bit less than.
Actually, I forget,
And-
I didn't bring my finance, we'll discuss that when we have
Oh,
our
sure.
other meeting, because I don't have my numbers in front of me, but
I think, I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I think the biggest concern for us and the conversation that we wanted to share with you is the fact that our current assistant librarian has given his notice and is leaving before the end of this fiscal year. So we're looking to start making some of these changes now so that we can ride out the rest of this budget cycle and start the next with the same plan and did out the math, and it is a change that's going to cost us around $740, but we feel that it's the best thing to do to walk through before we start the next budget line or budget round.
So, I don't know whether to ask my questions tonight or save them for the finance meeting. How much vacation does she have built up? Because you're not supposed to carry over vacation according to personnel policies.
No, I think you can carry vacation.
Only a limited.
Yeah, but it's
Up
pretty high.
to
It's pretty high.
6 weeks.
Yeah, I think she only has 2 weeks, and she's taking 1 week now, currently.
So I thought you were saying that she had a buildup of vacation, and that's why you had this line item in here.
Well, to me, yeah, 4 weeks is a build-up, but
No, she's probably qualified for 4 weeks. She's got to be qualified
Right.
for 4 weeks, so she's been here 20 years. God, I can't be that long.
oh, she's been here.
I mean, so you're saying,
19
Justin, that you're thinking, you're looking
It's not
at
20
for an okay to go
No,
into
I
this
didn't
model?
It's not 20 years.
No, it's not.
No, I think it's more of a conversation. Starting the conversation. Didn't want anybody to be surprised when So I think it goes back actually a little bit further than that. I think there was some knowledge that we were doing some market research, and there was some concerns about what was happening, and we're just trying to be really transparent with what it is that we're doing moving forward, so that there's no surprises.
So you feel you can staff the library adequately by dropping this one position? I mean, when I first came on the board, I'm just going to back up a little bit. 6 years ago, there was a talk that first year came from the library board to drop the janitor. And then a couple of years back, we were getting reamed for not allowing you guys to have a janitor. Well, that was the choice of this board. It had nothing to do with this
I
board.
wasn't here.
So I just don't want this to
No,
come
we're
back
all
in 2 years and say, well, the select board made us do this, they made us cut a position.
Yeah, no, we're not asking for a custodian.
So she's gonna be able to cover all the
She
hours,
will
so she's
be
gonna start
there
working Saturdays too?
Every time the library's open, she will be there.
So she'll be there
That was one
Saturdays.
of our
Yes, the whole
requests,
time.
that she would be there, that way you'd have someone that's trained
Right.
to do it.
She went through 4 assistant librarians that she trained in the past year or so.
I mean, personally, for me speaking, I'm not gonna speak for these two gentlemen, how you guys wanna manage your budget is, in my opinion, up to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yep.
I don't know if these two have input on that.
Well, I had a concern about the pay rates. Because we have to look at that, because we have to be fair to everybody in town. We can't have one budget giving their people a real high pay increase.
Well, this isn't showing any increase right
Yeah,
now.
we didn't.
Huh?
This isn't showing any increase.
Sure, it's showing us.
Well, to her
go from 23.64
yearly, but not to her rate.
Not to our hourly.
Her hourly rate stays the same as
Yeah.
it's been for 2 years.
Or within the guidelines of the new budget.
Right.
Well, what am I looking at then? Because it says here, it says her hourly rate's 23.64 in FY
That's
22.
22.
There's a
Yeah,
year,
We're in
and 24,
23.
it's 25.06.
Yeah,
It was
We're in
which is-
23.
which is the
Yeah.
same as
And
23.
we're talking about
It's the same.
budgeting for 24. I know it's confusing. It was even more confusing in December.
For the remainder of this
Well, okay,
fiscal year,
yeah,
they're
okay,
looking for more
23.
hours, but not changing her pay.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Mind going.
It's okay, we're all
No,
there.
it's late.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, Ken, do you have any input one way? Bless
Excuse
you.
me, thank you. Not at this point. I'm certainly interested in hearing the questions come up at the
I mean, it's some-
Finance Committee.
And it's something you can try and know if it's gonna work or not work. I mean, you can always go back the other way if you find out it doesn't work.
Correct. Correct.
As a neighbor of the library, physically, I live 2 houses down. I see Karen there very late at night, and I don't know how you get from 35 hours if her hours are being spent late at night, very, very early into the next morning, and still be able to have her cover the open times that the library has when the public can come in. It just, the math doesn't seem to work for me, but
I find it upsetting when I come by the library after 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to tell you how late I'm out. after 10 o'clock at night, and I see the lights on, and the temperature outside is 15, and I think, there goes the oil bill, there goes the electric bill.
Yeah, but it's still it's the same as that during the day. It doesn't really change that much.
But
'cause
at that hour of the night, the place should be dark, and the heat should be turned down.
It's a safety issue, call it that.
And,
And
yeah.
why do we have somebody there so late at night and sometimes into the wee hours of the morning? Sometimes people go by there and,
there's a lot of stuff that can't get done during the daytime, so she
Gotta
does it
work
when
out-
there's
she works all
nobody
night doing
there.
it?
How do you
She
figure
does
that?
work. She's a night owl. She's a late.
I mean, the library's still only open 20 hours a
no,
week, right?
no, I think
The library's open
needs
19
phone.
hours a week. Yep. Yep.
So with this 35 hours, I would think she should be able to get her work done during normal hours. I mean, it is a safety concern if something were to happen to her. There's just less people around that could knock on the door, that could drive by to say, I mean, I go by at 10 o'clock at night and wonder if she's okay. Did she just not leave work on time? Was she there alone and something happened?
We get a lot of comments
I
about
mean, we get a ton of comments about it,
Well, we
honestly.
can
Yeah,
talk
I-
about
So does
that.
Heine.
She,
But if those are the hours where she's at her peak, I mean, we all work different. I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I do my best work before 11 a.m. After that, I'm
okay, but we're
So
trying to,
we're all
what we're
different.
trying to do is keep costs down and, I don't know, heating a building at 65 or 70 is a lot more expensive than heating it at 50 when you're not there.
Yep.
And the same way the lights now, that we just got the urban, the Eversource
Oh, boy, yeah.
Electrical.
increase, and that's
They're not
gonna
gonna
be,
be
so
closed.
I would suggest that the library has to be closed at 9 o'clock and nobody else in it, they go home. They go home.
We can
Well,
talk
we
Well,
about
it's a
can
that.
talk
suggestion,
about
sure.
that.
Yeah, we can talk
I'm
about
Gina
that.
Baczynski,
Yeah.
and been a trustee. I just know as a person myself who had a pretty busy job in the daytime and had a lot of interaction with people, that I myself would stay after hours and do the work that I needed to do to get things done. I'm sure that's true with teachers. Teachers go into the school on weekends and other off hours to get their classrooms ready and do preparation. It's what professionals do when they want to accomplish what to do. I have to give Karen credit. She was able to get us a really wonderful
I agree,
grant.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it has to be every night. I mean, and we got residents that are really starting to get upset about it and concerned about that she's using that for a place to sleep. And I don't know if that's the case or not, because I don't go in there to find out. But you don't need to be there all night long. You do not need to be there all night long. That needs to stop. In my book. Brian?
Yeah,
The
I
other
agree.
concern is the utilization of the library. I understand you're trying to get to a level budget. Because of COVID, we've had to restrict who could come in and when they could come in to use the facility. But we've come out of the other end of COVID, and our numbers haven't recovered. They're still well below pre-COVID levels, where other towns, their library utilization has come back. In fact, they're over the pre-COVID. And it's a concern that we're responsible for the numbers, for the dollars here, for the service that's provided to the townspeople. And if the townspeople are not using the library, whatever the reason, pre-COVID, COVID, and post-COVID, there needs to be some focus on what it is, what the programming is, what we're offering to the public, that they're not using our library anymore. They're going to Greenfield, they're going online, to Audible, to download their books that way.
I haven't heard that. I haven't.
Yeah, do you mind sharing your source?
I would love to know. My brain isn't as good as it used to be. What happens when you get old? I will dig it out and share it with you.
If the board got numbers from CW Mars back in the fall.
Oh, that's okay. I knew they were somewhere. So, It's a struggle. I mean, it's a service we have to provide. I understand that, but it's one that if we keep doing the same thing that we're doing, we're not going to be serving the townspeople properly. So.
I don't understand if we keep doing what we're doing. I was in there, I'm in there frequently, and there's always several people in there.
The numbers don't bear that out. It is CWMRs. That just, we're up here pre-COVID. We went to zero COVID. I understand that. You can't hold the library responsible for that. But there hasn't been the recovery back. And other towns all around us have recovered. Their citizens are using their libraries.
I think it would be interesting to, we never stopped offering services, so I don't believe it ever went to zero, but it would be certainly, I think, worth our group sitting down to look at the numbers that you have and maybe finding a few more to really dive into what are people utilizing? Is it circulating materials that haven't come back? Is it people using the programming outside of circulating materials that hasn't come back, to really know where we're losing people and what we can do to change that? But I don't think we've got enough data to really dive into some of those answers.
CWMRs is just ordering online, though.
Right.
That's
And they do a great
not coming
job.
into the library.
And it's not just
So
the
if you come into the library, you're getting a book.
Yep.
If you're going to CWMRs, you don't need to go to the library.
CWMRs provides state documentation for circulation that includes all sorts of media, books, DVDs, CDs, as well as electronic downloads. So it's a compilation of
I'm
everything.
surprised they don't get that anymore. How come you guys got it and the library board didn't get it?
Can't help you. I don't know. CWMRs, you can borrow books. So if Bernardston doesn't have a copy of whatever it is I want,
You can borrow it.
Right.
borrow it at CWMRs. It comes through Bernardston.
Yep. And drop off.
Yep,
Mhm.
and I've used that many times. But I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems like we're nickeling, diming the library budget, and not much is being questioned about some of the huge increases in the school committee budget.
Trust me, we'll.
I'm at every one of the budget subcommittee meetings.
And so am I. If
Yeah.
not in person, I have to do it online these days.
And this board has fought the school for
And then we
many
go to
years.
town meeting and
We've
don't
gone
get
to
the
towns, and our town will turn around and say, no, we're gonna vote for it.
I support everything she's doing about the new programs and trying to cover it in-house, but the administrative salaries,
That's one of our
They're huge.
biggest complaints with that budget is the administration line, at over $1 million.
Eliminating the assistant librarian, and I know that turnover is very much of a concern. But in the process of the life of the library, you do need to plan ahead for the next person that's going to be the library director.
You're
And
not
when
going
you
to
take
get
away
someone
that
for
role,
23 hours a week.
Sorry?
You're not going to get someone for 23 hours a week.
well,
They're gonna do the same thing. They're gonna use a stepping stone and go somewhere else. Or you're gonna be backing up. You know, we had these conversations with us, trying to figure out this is a stepping stone towards the future. You know,
but by eliminating that position, you're eliminating the succession solution.
not necessarily, because that can come back.
But you're zeroing out the possibility of it.
Not really. We
No?
can institute that back if we need to.
So they're taking it out for 1 year.
And take
next
away
year they'll be
8 hours
able to
away
We
from
could.
Karen?
We could bring it back
Would
into.
say
a-
no.
If you do
Well,
add
it's-
7 or 8 hours to Karen's process, you're not going to be able to take that away when you need to add back the assistant librarian.
I think the trustees can do that.
We have the
We
power to
have
do
the-
that. Yes.
We can do that.
Good luck.
Yes.
And that position didn't always exist. But that came into place years ago when Karen's predecessor didn't want to have to work Saturdays, so they created the position. That wasn't always there. That was a
And it worked for the library. And Karen doesn't work Saturdays.
She
She will
will.
now.
She'll be working Saturday. She has trained Beth, Ellis, Deb, Sean, at least 4 assistant librarians. And that takes a lot of time.
Oh, I
She
agree.
trains them and they leave.
And
for
why
other
did they
libraries.
leave?
They go for higher paying jobs.
More pay.
Right.
It's no
It's just not
different.
enough hours.
Yeah,
There's no retention.
yeah. I mean, who wants to work just 10 hours or whatever? I mean,
Well,
I,
they take the job for 10 hours, so they must have wanted to work for 10 hours.
no, we lost all of them.
I still think within their budget, I don't know what you guys, they can manage it how they see fit.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, that's, they're the experienced people in the
Right.
library. It's sure not Stan Garrell. That's for sure.
So I guess you guys, whatever you want to try to do with that, in my opinion, I don't think we have any grounds to say you can't do it.
Protocol, I was just trying to figure out what, as
Yeah.
far as, we just want to let you guys
Yeah,
aware
we
of
appreciate
what,
that.
we're actually going to happen.
Now, the
and
mini
then-
split that was mentioned too, what's the deal with the mini split?
So, we've got a price from Jamrog because it failed back in August. And I'm not sure if Karen was able to forward this one to you guys back in the summer, of what it would cost to fix and or replace. You can slide that around or make copies if you'd like.
They were
It's like-
here today, Jim Rugg, the library?
No, that was during the summer.
No, this was back,
No, they were here today.
they were here
Parked
today.
out front of the library today. He might be checking out a book, I don't know. But,
They serviced the boiler here today.
okay,
Oh, okay, so they probably did ours down there then too.
could be.
Yeah, probably.
I haven't talked to Karen today, so I'm not sure exactly what she did.
They could have been just parking down there, I don't know.
What was the date on that, Brandon?
Yeah, going through her August email, I don't have it, Brandon.
No, I know.
Oh, Jane had it.
August 24th.
Here, let's get the chairman.
Oh, you want to give him the pretty one? Okay, fine.
Oh, I thought I made 6 copies.
Okay.
So this was a unit that was put in by the select board, I guess, many years ago, or a few years ago,
Yeah,
Not
the
very
green,
long.
green committee. Yeah.
and it's already failed.
That's why it surprises me that this has already failed. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Hey,
They also didn't have the heat pump.
no, it's not a heating unit, it's a strictly
Yeah.
cooling unit only.
it's a cool, it's a what?
It's a strictly cooling unit only.
That's why it's price it is.
Now, why are we using in-window air conditioners then?
We're not using in-window air conditioners. We've been using that unit.
Somebody better
And-
bring me up to speed because we've had a lot of conversations and I was told that that was a heating unit only and not a cooling unit.
No, just a cooling, not a heating.
I think originally it was supposed to be a heating and cooling one, but
Right.
somehow it didn't get
It's
put in there.
unfortunate.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
remember.
But it was before I was here.
Thank you.
Who
No,
else
I
needs
thought
to-
it was
Give it a
Did
good
it
old
too?
it's heating only.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
That's what I,
It's
that's,
cool-
what-
it's
that's
cooling
what
only.
I,
Because
that's,
they were still using the air conditioners last year.
Yes.
And that's why the
So-
green committee,
It wasn't working.
I know, but the green
No, I
committee.
never, I never got this.
yeah, I
We
think
were
we're wrong.
trying to get
No, it's cooling.
another mini split put
it's
in
cool.
at the end and get that one replaced with a heating and cooling, because I don't know how, that all happened, that mini split happened before I was on the green committee and responsible, so.
So we're not sure what, how you want to proceed with that. I don't know if this year's a good year to try to put it into a heating, cooling unit, or,
You're saying it's a cooling unit and they're saying here it's a heating unit.
it's, if you look up the numbers on that, it's just strictly a cooling unit.
How come, I was in the library a couple weeks ago, and that thing was blasting heat out. It was running.
I don't think so.
I don't know what's going on with it.
It's close to the register for the furnace, but it certainly does not put out heat.
I mean, it's broken, so it couldn't have been running.
Correct.
I don't think we're crazy, but I think it was running.
Yeah, because I can remember sitting here and having a conversation with Bob Raymond was here, and we were really upset when we saw that they were putting the air conditioning units back in the window, and we said we just put that new mini split in there for heating and cooling, And we thought that was gonna solve the problem. They said, oh, no, it's just for heat.
So that size unit just will take care of the main floor of that building. It doesn't have enough power to get to get over into the children's side.
Right.
So you actually need 2 units in there to actually cool the building properly.
So on this quote from Jamrock
Well,
though, I'm
really
seeing it says 1 Dakin heating coil.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not.
it's a heating unit, it's not,
It's a heating
it
unit,
was
not a cooling.
not for cooling only.
Well, it could be called a heating
It's-
coil, even though all it does is cool.
The only-
Gives you-
No,
This
it
got
can't.
paid for, originally it got
It
paid for.
basically
I
just
know,
pushes
but
the-
you're not hearing me.
pushes
It's hard
it.
to have funny names sometimes.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is, the state would not have allowed us to put in a cooling unit only,
Under
but
that
they
grant?
would let us do a heating unit to reduce
Right.
down our oil consumption.
So I guess the first thing you gotta do is find out what we really got. But here's my question. Beyond that, okay, I still think it's a heating unit, not a cooling unit. And I would like to know what it would cost us to put that building to 2 units that heat and cool. So you have a good system in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd like to know.
To do both rooms.
Probably looking at around 10 grand.
Can you get us a quote for that?
Huh?
I probably
Probably
could,
looking at
yeah.
around 10 grand
might be the
for,
way to go.
for 2 units,
That's
That
a
would be a
reasonable
heat
for
number.
heating and cooling. I'm just ballparking it.
Well, and that's assuming that the outside unit will handle 2 inside ones.
Yeah,
Well,
can-
It's gotta be big enough
You'd
to...
have probably have to put a bigger condenser in.
How much were you thinking?
Probably around 10 grand.
Yeah.
Can you get us an estimate on that? Can you?
I can try. I'm not doing very good at my insulation, but I'll try.
Sandra will give you a number.
Don't look at me, I don't work there anymore.
I know, but I just did.
Or do
Just
we
bought
need
one.
to do that through this office?
Two.
And just get a hold of Jim
Jason.
and ask him to, or whoever else does it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just concerned that we don't want window units. If this unit doesn't cool the other room, then you gotta put a window unit in there to cool that.
Correct.
So that's not good in my book. We might as well, if we've got a little bit of ARPA money we can use for some small stuff like this here to get one-time thing, I think it'd be a,
Especially with the
Good
cost of
purchase.
electricity doing what it's doing.
huh?
Especially with the cost of electricity doing what it's doing.
And it would probably give you a better heating solution and,
Well, one of the long-term things too is getting that building insulated. You know, getting the roof insulated so it has more than just 6 inches of, insulation in there. So if we can go down the road of getting the knob and tube removed so that we can blow in some insulation there in that areas, that would be a step in the right direction.
So how come that hasn't been done already?
What's that?
Because the knob and tube, because you guys authorize the payment if they have bill.
Not the
then
knob and
nothing
tube,
happened.
they authorize the payment of the insulation in the basement.
They had a grant for the other.
Oh, you had a grant for the knob and tube.
Did they get all the knob and tube or not yet?
No, not at all. We haven't.
We were down there.
Yeah, because this is one of the grants though that you had from last year, that Karen got. Fit on your budget.
That $15,000
specifically for electrical upgrades.
That's for this year.
Right. This year ends June 30th.
No, so she just got that.
Well, this was in your FY23 budget, and they talked about it during budget season last year.
Yeah, I asked her if the grant expires at any point in time, and she didn't think they did. So I don't know.
I think you have to spend that by June 30th.
All right, we'll have to ask her. I wasn't aware of that. I thought it was just this one.
No, I asked her that.
Okay.
Do you know what the $5,000 was used for? In 22, the same grant?
FY22 here says specifically for technology.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Should read what's in
It's okay.
front of me.
Very
Why
small
would I
print.
want to?
It is very small print. It's
small.
bigger than Brandon's print. so.
Not as small. Yeah, I was looking at his page.
So that, and you're just having trouble with the other parts we authorized?
Basically, yeah, Biller's installed, he has not responded back to
Okay.
me. I'm not sure if he's even still working at the company anymore. I've reached out to Patriot out in Gardner, Mass. I was supposed to actually meet with him yesterday, but he canceled on me, so I'm hoping I can get him roped in for this coming Saturday, to get him in there to give me a price on it, quote on it. He has a slightly different system. It's a one-part system where he can just spray it on. It's a fire reading one, so you don't have to spray it in, come back and then do another coat of
That's
fire
downstairs,
retardant on
or
it.
that's downstairs, or?
That's downstairs.
In the
Yep.
basement.
Yep. So the game plan was to remove the items that are down there, take off the insulation, have an electrician come in, make sure the knob and tube wiring isn't where they're going to spray it, and then have them come in and spray.
Yep.
So I'd lined up Barnaby Young
Yep,
to be that
remember that.
person to come in afterwards. So
This is in the,
this was supposed
in
to be
the
a
rough
year ago,
basement as
actually.
opposed to the finished basement.
Correct. We don't have to do anything in the finish. Yep.
Other than empty it?
Yep.
No,
No?
don't have to empty the new if they're not gonna insulate it.
It's already insulated. Hopefully.
Empty it as in
He's talking about the room itself.
the room itself. It needs to be
Oh,
dumpstered.
well, that's a different
Yeah.
Okay.
subject. Continue.
Okay, so we're gonna work on getting a quote on the mini splits for heat and cool.
So
I just sent Nicole an email. So
Oh,
I
that's
should
quick.
get back
Goes
to her
pretty quick,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay,
Did you ask her for another copy of the other invoice?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
that'd be.
And then you're still working on the insulation and the electrical piece of it.
Yep.
You're gonna find out about the grant.
Yep.
Now, there's another issue you have over there. You have a mice problem
Yeah, we found that.
downstairs. That place needs to be cleaned out. It really does.
So so
You
the
get a
foundation
dumpster,
has
we'll
all the
come over
holes
and
in
help
it.
you. You get
It's
a
a rock
dumpster, we'll come over
foundation.
and help you.
It's New England.
It's a rock foundation, so there you've got more than just mice that come in there once in a while. So that's why the whole insulation thing would help.
No,
Defer.
I'm talking down where the vault is.
The finished
Downstairs
area.
in
The storage room.
Underneath the,
Oh.
that's got mice all over it. Everything's being chewed up.
It's all up on the racks.
It's, they're peeing and pooping over on the stuff up on the shelves.
And the vault too?
Yeah. Now, we just had the senior center go out and get a quote for having a pest control. And I would suggest we try to do the same thing for the library.
Sure.
You know,
And then you add a line item for that.
I would,
We'd have to add a line item for
Yeah.
that.
If the cost would be enough, you wouldn't be able to eat it.
yeah. And I think it's gonna cost
If
us.
we're gonna have to do that in more than one town building, why don't we have an account for that and get all the town buildings on the program?
That'd be smart.
We're starting slow. But Jen's already got a person that, I forget the name of the eliminator.
It's an odd
Yeah,
name.
Luke can forward you
Looking
the
it up right
information of
now.
the company that's doing
Yeah.
it.
But get the pest control there and that's gonna have to be like, they'll give you a quote for a one-time thing, and then you'll have to,
Repeat
and
it.
then you'll have to have the monthly thing, and I think it's gonna be something like $100 a month.
That's gonna increase our budget. Holy
No,
smokes.
well, that's for the senior center. Now, the library might not be because senior center's got
With the
kitchen, they got food, and they got, so.
You probably don't have mice over there. You got something else.
Oh, no, we got mice.
I think we have other things too, but we definitely have mice.
Yeah, so that was an issue. And
Jen's company is Eliminate 'em.
Eliminate them.
Say, yeah, it's cute. He's got a nice logo.
and if we can't, this is the time to think about this stuff, and if we can't afford it in the budget, that's something we have to take out, but we need to take care of our buildings.
Sure.
Okay, now on another note, again, that cleanup downstairs, I'm serious about that. I'd like to see us do something, clean that out. I mean, like, I'd be more than happy to help people lug stuff out to the dumpster and stuff.
Get a
It's gonna need a
roll-off dumpster
Some of
and
that
just
stuff just
take
can't
out
be
the
saved,
basement.
because it's got the mice stuff and stuff on it, you just gotta dump it.
We were gonna have a walkthrough of the building.
We did.
We did.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The inside is looking somewhat better. There still needs some work. The computers, the old computers that are there still need to be thrown away. They're upstairs now in the upstairs part. But
Staples.
there's been some obvious work on cleaning the place up, and the upstairs when you walk in looks a lot better. Looks a lot better. And that brings us to the next section, the outside. The outside looks really bad. I contacted Ed Snow, and I told Karen this, that I was going to contact Ed Snow to get a quote on what it would cost us to take care of the outside of the library, around the pond, and also the town hall here, because this doesn't look too good around here.
You okay?
And I told Karen that I would contact her when this was going to be done. However, Ed called me on, I think it was last Tuesday or Tuesday before. He was going through town and said he could stop. I called the library, but nobody answered there, and I didn't leave a message, but I called. So I went there and I met with Ed. He went back and he came up with a quote for us, and I'd like to read this to you. He says, the library, the goal, create a more attractive, low-maintenance landscape, recommend removing the 2 large yews in front of the building. We would also recommend removing vegetation between the sidewalk and the building leading to the bench. We'd also remove unwanted vegetation around the back sides of the building and around the pond perimeter. There are numerous dead trees along Library Street. This entire edge should be cleaned up and made more maintainable. Once the plant material has been removed and the area is loamed and graded, a low-maintenance, aesthetically pleasing planting should be installed. If we were to do this site prep, I would estimate the cost at approximately $2,000. If it was to be done in conjunction with the town staff and local tree warden, the cost would be minimal. We would do a landscape design after meeting with the librarian, because he requested that she could be involved in this, and others at no cost to you. I would estimate a new planting to be whatever your budget needs it to be. If we were to follow up and provide annual maintenance, once in the spring and once in the fall, the cost would be approximately $500. So twice a year we would get, get the proper fertilization and that type of cleanup. I think this is a good deal, and we'd like to move. Well,
That's library and town hall? You said that they were looking around.
Oh yeah, the town hall is the next one. I didn't. You want me to read that to you too? I can.
No.
No, I wasn't sure what.
That was just.
If you were including both. If that was including both.
That was just including the library.
That was just the library.
Right. So again, that would be a. We would pay for. I haven't talked to the select board, so after talking with the select board, if they agree, we would use the ARPA money for the $2,000 to get the initial work done. And then the library would have to budget the $500 a year for the annual maintenance.
Another line item.
Yeah. But it would start making things now, I talked to Ed, I said, can we cut these big bushes back in front of the town hall? He said you'd never make them look right. He says they're too overgrown and they wouldn't look right. And plus, if you look and you touch your sign that's back there, the bush is holding that sign up.
Yeah.
That's just about ready to go back. So, so we would like, I'm going to ask the board if we can move forward with this. And I just wanted to bring you guys up to date. And like I said, once it's cleaned up, and then we go to what we're going to plant, and then we get Karen involved and you folks involved to see what we're going to do. But
do you mind sending me that email that you've got so I can share that with our trustees?
Karen knew we were going to come over there with snows. We did tell her that.
Yes, you did. I do remember that conversation. Yeah. Yep.
So we'll get working on that.
And I'm sorry I couldn't meet you that day there. That I had to decline. The afternoons are hard.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all I got about the library.
Anything else regarding the library tonight anyway? I mean, we're going to come back to Jane's anyway, so.
No, yeah, because a lot of it would be with Jane.
Yeah.
You know, because we were talking.
We'll be there too. So.
Yeah. Okay.
That was meeting, would that meeting be here? Brian?
Yes, that's what we're trying
I
to
think
do.
we're trying to meet at town hall since we're not having.
Unless it's
crazy
snow.
weather.
Okay.
Just, we can't park out here in a snowstorm, so we move our finance meeting over to the police department. Stay out of trouble and stay. I don't like them spraying my car with salt. That's why I don't like to park up.
And please don't take my comments early or wrong. I'm not saying that Karen can't be in the library after hours and doing some work. It just needs to be controllable. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and we will talk to her.
If she's got some, she has some work to do, gonna do that, and that's fine. I'm not, we don't, that's your guys have to control that. That's not us.
Okay.
Duly noted.
Thank you very much.
Next
Appreciate
year
it.
we'll ask for a custodian.
You don't have, well, no, that's something that you guys should be talking about, and if you just mentioned a custodian.
I'm joking.
Yeah. She was joking over my comment,
Oh,
but they asked to remove
Stop
it.
boosting their budget
That's
up
right.
there.
Yeah.
We asked, don't be saying we didn't give you the money, because we did.
Well,
chose
this
to spend it different.
is, you know, I don't agree with that
Okay.
number. You look at the budget sheet.
Okay, next up on, Chris has been patiently awaiting.
Something's wrong.
Okay.
I don't know why.
So we've had our resignation from the planning board. So I'm going to read it. It's a letter from Joel Cole. To inform you that I'll be resigning from my position as a member of the planning board effective, it's either January 7th or the 17th. I'm not sure which. 7th, thank you. 2023. It's been my privilege to serve my community and look forward to being involved in the future. Respectfully, Joel Cole. We want to make a motion to accept that resignation?
I would move to accept the resignation of Joel Cole effective January 17th.
I'll second that with great regret, because
Yeah.
I think Joel's done a tremendous job.
Right, yeah.
Tremendous
Yeah, he
job
doesn't have
for
a
the town.
choice.
He doesn't have a choice.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And can we send Joel a letter of appreciation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
We
Thank you,
also
thank you.
actually should have included the Franklin County Cooperative Planning Board, Franklin County Planning Board, because he was the member for the,
Yeah.
on that as well. So we have that position open now too.
Okay. And Chris,
He
if-
represents the town of Bernardston on that committee?
On the Franklin County.
Yeah.
Planning
Okay.
Board, yes.
if you'd like to come up with Pamela, that would be great. Chris
Very
is-
patient, Pamela.
Right, I know it. Thank you for waiting so long.
A lot of insights into the town this evening.
We
It's
had
not
a,
usually we're home.
I know, usually we're gone
We're
already.
usually
well
home
gone.
sleeping by now.
Couldn't have picked a better night.
But you
So
could
we-
have put us earlier on the agenda.
We had the one resignation from the planning board, and we have a replacement already. Chris
replacement
has found a
already.
replacement. And it's Pam, I'm going to say your last name. for me.
Nuovo.
Thank you. That is wishing to be appointed to the planning board.
She is. Want to tell them a little bit about
Yes.
yourself?
We know where you live because you told us.
I know, I live in the Bundes' old house
Yes.
on Huckle Hill. We moved here in 2015, so coming up on 8
Yeah.
years this summer, so
Nice.
previously lived in Vermont and was involved in civic affairs in Shelburne. And once I moved here, it just took a little time to just get to know the town, and I feel really, just over the course of 7 years, I've seen a lot of change, and I really appreciate and want to give back to the community, similar to, you know, his appreciation as he's resigned. So I worked in the town where Shelburne on the bike path and pedestrian committee, so we had a lot of open space projects, and we also worked with the town to install a bike path and worked with local agencies, and was involved in the school board, so very connected to local affairs, local government, and I'm excited to be part of it. I am a communications manager at a nonprofit educational business in Brattleboro, so it's always nice to come home, except the other night up Huckle Hill where it was quite foggy and
Yeah, it was.
hard
That's
to
true.
find my way, but yeah, so that's a little bit about myself.
Great. Somebody want to make a
I
motion?
make a motion to appoint Pamela Noble,
Nuovo. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's what it looks like too. Okay, I'm sorry. New Oval, yeah. I did, yeah. We appoint Pamela to our planning board, effective immediately.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Appreciate
much
the
for-
volunteer. That's great.
I need to swear you in still, too.
Okay.
And Chris, one thing before you leave, I'm going to go off script for a half a second, Lou.
Okay.
Town caucus. You and I briefly talked about it yesterday.
Monday, March, is that the 6th? Monday, March 6th. 7
Seniors-
o'clock, and I guess we
Wanna
do it here.
Yeah.
Rather than the senior center.
We've always.
I just gotta find a moderator.
Okay, everybody's good with that?
Yeah.
Might as well get that set and out of the way, right?
Absolutely.
Any suggestions for a moderator? I know maybe Mark Fitzpatrick will do it if,
Well, I'll see if Bob Carey will do it. He
there
did
you
it
go
last
too, that's
year.
right too.
Yeah,
Because
I'll just check with him first.
we don't use the town moderator?
He goes away at the end of February
Uh-huh.
for a month or two. And
Good.
is not
No wonder I haven't
available.
seen him walking.
There
Okay.
you go. And while you're still here, you're next on the agenda.
Yes.
You can stay or leave, Pam, it's up to you.
Stay or you can sit back there.
Okay.
Nah.
I'll sit back, stay, whatever you want to do.
Chris has brought to our attention a possible opt-out for the local town election only from mail-in voting.
Right.
Let me back up. Chris is wondering how we feel about reducing the cost of the town by not having the mail-in voting portion of just the annual town election in May.
And we have to do this every year to opt out. But it doesn't affect state and federal elections. Those we have to do.
Okay.
But we could opt out from because then we incur the cost of mailing out those ballots and everything too.
How many
It's-
mail-in ballots will we get for town elections?
For town election,
Yeah.
not many, but I think after this, I mean, gosh, for the state election, we had over 600.
Yeah, but
But-
we're just talking about one element here. This is just a town.
All we had before was absentee ballots,
Huh?
absentee voters, and that was it. It was only a handful of people.
And that
Okay.
would still exist.
Yeah, a person can still request an absentee ballot.
So this would just be for
This
the
would just be for opting-
2023 May town election.
Yes, for mail-in voting
What's people's thoughts?
or mail-out ballot.
Absolutely. It's a good way to save money.
I mean, we never
It's a
have any
hassle.
contests, so I can't
Right.
really, you know.
It's hard to justify.
So why justify, you can't justify the cost for when there's no contest
Go ahead, Jen.
necessarily.
Sometimes there are important questions like 2.5 exemptions that are on that ballot. And
What
then you
I
move
heard Chris
on
say
to-
is you have to do this every year. So on those years when we've got a 2.5, we can certainly go back to the mailing.
Right. At this point, you don't know whether you're going to have a
Got it.
2.5 exemption.
Well, you
better
can still
not.
have the question on the ballot.
I know, but I'm saying, when we have important questions like that, it would be nice to know that people who can't make it in during those voting hours can vote.
They can
And
get
I know
absentee
that's an
ballots.
expense, but I just
I
want
could
you
still
to
do early
consider.
voting hours during my office hours.
Just being flexible.
This one does take a formal vote if we're going to do it, so
Yes,
somebody would
a
have to
roll
make a
call vote.
formal.
Former roll call vote.
By now.
And it has to be done 45 days earlier than 45 days prior to the election.
Okay.
Does somebody-
So after the 45 days, I'm stuck if you don't accept
Well,
it,
and
then I have to
if
do
there
it.
were going to be a special question on the ballot, we would have to have that in before 45 days also. So,
Yeah, yeah.
That covers it. Yep.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
When do you want to make a motion?
I just have to let the state know also that
And
we're
we'll give you this.
very
I make a
pushing out or not.
motion that we eliminate the early voting by mail for local elections and preliminaries.
No, just
Second.
Just a local
Just
election.
the local election.
This local election.
As amended. Second.
Any other discussion? I'm going to read what the notice says that we have to supply to the state, Town of Bernardston Select Board. Notice is hereby given that the Bernardston Select Board will consider opting out of a vote by mail for the annual town election pursuant to provisions of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 54, Section 25B, subsection A, Section 1, on January 11th, 2023, at the Bernardston Town Hall, 38 Church Street, during the Select Board meeting. All those in favor of the motion?
We need a roll call separate.
Yes. Stan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Brian, yes.
Unanimous.
Good thing you said roll call. It's a good one. I think I'm on the school committee now. Did you have anything else for us, Chris, while you're there or not? I can just give this to Chris, correct? Or do you need, well, Ken's got to sign it first. That might help.
That can go to Chris and I'll just take a copy from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry
Sounds
about
good.
that. You good?
I think we're good.
Okay, next up, BES usage requests. We have 2 BES usage requests for tonight. The first one is for a spring craft fair. It's a joint event between the Bernardston Rec Department and the Bernardston PTO. The dates requested are March 24th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. for setup. And the actual craft fair would be on March 25th from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the gym and the cafeteria at BES. Interim principal Cindy Schultz has signed off, giving her okay to do that. How do folks feel about that?
I'm fine with it.
I am too.
As am I. We don't need a formal vote for these anyway, I don't think, do we? Or do you want a formal vote, Lou?
Does that mean that if she's interim, she can't be, she's going to be 1 year too?
Yeah, I wasn't
That is
aware
correct.
of that.
Huh?
That is correct, sir.
I wasn't aware of that. The second request is from the Bernardston Rec Department. They are asking for the okay to run a winter recreational camp event Monday through Friday from 8 to 4 from February 17th through February 24th, which is the school vacation week. Staff to set up and clean up on Saturday she'll have there. They'll be using the building from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 for prep and cleaning. And again, this is February 17th through the 24th in the BES gym and cafeteria. School vacation week, they're on like a summer rec program, but during the winter break. And again, this was signed off by interim principal Cindy Schultz that she's good with that. And I did talk to Patricia Kinsella about it the other day at Pioneer, and she's thinking it's a great event as well.
Good.
Anybody have any issues with that one?
Nope.
Give the kids another option.
Are they charging like a daycare?
Yeah, they're going to charge a small fee to cover her costs for the staffing. Next up, Stanley, I'm going to defer to you for the landscaping proposals for Snow and Sons.
Okay, I won't reread the one for the library. You folks heard the one for the library. As far as the town hall goals are, he says create a more attractive, low-maintenance landscape, much easier here as it doesn't need much plant removal. A couple of plant and tweaks and some regular maintenance. This shouldn't require much. Initial cleanup and trim in the spring, approximately around $1,000 if we do. Twice a year maintenance plan would be approximately $1,500 per year. So I'd ask for the board's consideration on getting this, some of our landscaping done. We've been dealing with this for years. We've been dealing with the volunteers doing it, and somehow that always kind of drops off, and then we end up back in the same ballpark that we're in. It just doesn't get done. So I would like to see us use, at least for the initial, $2,000 for the library and $1,000 for the town hall to get this thing done, and then we could put in the budget the maintenance for
Why is the
years.
maintenance for town hall so much more than for the library?
I would have to ask him when he comes.
Yeah.
But
'Cause it didn't-
probably got more to, probably gonna have more to do here, and because the library, he's the type of stuff he's gonna be putting in the library is not gonna have to be like flowers and stuff like that there, and it's gonna be bushes and that type of thing.
And we can ask them that. I think it's a great idea to get them cleaned up. We've been trying to get that pond area cleaned up for a few years now, and we've got a great opportunity And partnering with Ed Snow with the Vets Memorial and this just kind of makes sense to me.
And he'll work with us.
He absolutely will.
Do we need to, what about PI?
What was that?
What about PI?
What about PI?
Well, I think let's start with these and see how it all works out.
There's basically nothing there except
Right,
lawn
Right,
mowing.
right, which
Right.
the highway does.
Except that I think we need some fill in that front east corner by the entrance where it's leaking.
Yeah, we can show that to Brian.
Yeah, because I think that the reason it's leaking again is because now the ground is sloping towards the building again, probably settled.
Oh, I know what you mean. Right.
Where you go downstairs, if you're on the inside of the building.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Ed Snow's proposal for the library and the town hall landscaping.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll have to add that to the spreadsheet too.
I'd ask Lou to, if you would reach out for Ed Snow and let him know that we're willing to do it, and if we could set up a meeting with Ed, Brian, and Brad. Because the trees, I don't know if Ed understands, but the trees, we can't touch the trees unless it has to go through the
Hearing.
Yeah.
to Brad, because the tree warden, because of the shade tree rule.
Well, there has to be a hearing.
Well, because Brian might say to Ed, we can do this, we can do that, and
Yeah, there should be a meeting first to set the groundwork, if you will,
Yeah.
and then if a public tree has to come out, then we'll do the public hearing as
And they can
as
agree
it's
on
supposed to be.
what Brian's gonna do, what Ed's gonna do.
Sure.
To save
Yep.
on that initial cost. Great, that's perfect. Thank you, Stan. Next up, we had dog waste concerns at Pratt Field. We all did receive a letter from a citizen that's concerned about the numbers of people not picking up after their dogs when they're walking them at Pratt Field. She does suggest some solutions that she's seen in other communities, one of which is adding a post with the dog bags so folks can pick up, and it usually has a little waste container with it, which would mean it would have to get dumped. Bob Smith currently does maintenance over there all summer. Shouldn't be much of a big ask if we purchased a dog-friendly bag dispenser. I don't know what other folks' thoughts are. And yes, we're not going to get 100% participation, but if we get 50%, that's better than we're getting now, apparently. I did take a walk over around there, and she is absolutely right. I used to walk over there all the time. It's never like it is now.
Yeah. That's too bad.
It's getting more and more used, I think, as part of it, as people learn about it.
Well, and in the course of following up with Cassie, who forwarded that email to me, and Brian Miner, this is, and I agree with you, Brian, it seems that the field is getting more and more use for people walking their dogs. As that email alludes to, it really becomes a matter of safety for the kids that play over there. And while you would like to think that everybody would take advantage of a bag station, if you will, it's probably best to try this out to see in which direction it goes. You wouldn't want to see that area restricted, so
Right.
I think at the other end of the spectrum is no dogs allowed at all. And it might be an experiment, if you will, and like you said, 50% would be better than zero participation. So
If we have Brian order a couple of these stations and plant them where he thinks they would be most used.
Yeah.
They're the ones that run into it.
Is there a sign that says pick up after your dog?
Yeah, not now, there's not. But it's part of those normal
It's part of the
dog dispenser bags.
Yep.
The ones that I've seen have a little
Yes.
sign on them.
we should have a sign over there, or a couple signs stating that if you're gonna use this for your walking your dog or whatever, you need to pick up after your dogs. All dog waste has to be picked up.
well,
I think that's a town ordinance anyway. I think that's a
it
town
is. Yep.
bylaw.
Yep.
it is. So I'll coordinate with Brian, getting the station set up, some signage, and
And they would empty it.
If you do the signage, where if you look in the bylaw, if it has a number
Right.
on it, you add that to it, so
Good idea.
if we catch a person, we'll find them.
yeah.
Okay, next up we have a USDA farmland preservation Al Averill of the USDA's American Farmland Trust has been contacting us, asking if Bernardston would like to be included in the program for farmland preservation. He said because we're already a right to farm town, it would be a good fit. We did get information in the packet. I did read through it pre-meeting. I had a brief conversation with Lou to think that we should forward this to the Ag Commission.
Absolutely.
And the Planning Board.
Have them take a look
has to
at
do
it.
with rights of way and things like that. It's gonna fall under both of you and get some of their input before we signed off on.
Well, they're not the only place that conserves land.
Right. So we'll get some input from those two folks. And the last on our old business, we have at last the cable television renewal license from Comcast of Massachusetts.
And they said it had never happened.
How many years in the works, Lou?
Three
plus years.
3+.
Wow. So we have.
I was young and good looking when this started.
There you got your gray hair.
So it's a 68-page document. We're going to give you the Reader's Digest version. This is the entire license. The key components of this new license are increased PEG access channel fees, an HD channel for PEG access programming. Running separately, but nevertheless a key component, is the build-out of approximately 50 homes in the town of Bernardston. You've heard us talk about that in the past. There's still less than 60 residents in this town that aren't serviced by Comcast, which means they don't have high-speed internet. Part of this negotiation that was done, they're going to expand that to an additional 50 homes in Bernardston. Bernardston's share of that cost will be about $60,000 roughly, which we're using from the ARPA funds, which we've mentioned several times on here. Comcast, through this negotiation, will be picking up the remainder, which is somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million.
It's actually a partnership between Comcast and Mass Broadband.
Thank you.
MBI.
I forgot that second part now. So what say you all about signing this document tonight so we can move on with the...
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. It's a great thing for the citizens, and I hope they
Yeah.
work on getting those people connected soon.
Chris, don't run away.
Nice try. So you left once and came back.
Just when you thought it was safe to leave.
Yeah.
At this point, I thought.
Perfect. Sounds to me like...
Thank you.
Sounds to me like poor planning.
Anybody have any other business?
I do. I have a
Go for
question
it.
for Chris. Traveling around town, I've observed a couple of properties that have unregistered vehicles parked there. And I just wondered what the planning board or what the requirements...
Building inspector is our zoning enforcer.
Okay. So we talked to the building inspector to enforce that. Okay, not the planning board. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right, we do not enforce.
You have anything, Stan?
They are allowed to have one unregistered vehicle. Anything more than that, they have to have behind, like a fence or
Okay.
hidden out of view.
Anything else, Cap?
Nope.
Jane, do you have anything you want to bring up before we turn it over to Lou?
No, I don't think so. Our next meeting is the 23rd.
I did inform these two fine gentlemen of that. That will be a joint meeting, Lou, just so you know.
Thank you, sir.
At
Here.
6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And Lou, we're going to turn it over to the town coordinator's report.
I promise I will be very quick, Mr. Chairman, as soon as I type in Adam Dutcher's dates here. Okay, just quickly touching on bullet points. Number one, we have submitted the purchase request to Roberts Energy for the gasoline tank at the highway garage. Pad has been poured, so that will be coming in the near future. Two, Brian McHugh from Housing, who was here on the December 14th meeting, will be returning on February 8th to shore up the CDBG plans with the town for the coming year. Third, Capital Strategic has submitted finalized grant plans for the Veterans Monument Project, which is a state grant, and to USDA Rural Development for the repeater funding. That one will bring the town about $75,000 in federal money towards the repeaters. The email chain on that says that the people who received it at USDA have already put it out for underwriting, so that one sounds like it's really promising. Fourth, now that the Comcast license has been approved, I'll be in contact with Comcast and NBI first thing tomorrow morning to finalize details for the start of the build-out and hopefully get some kind of schedule from them. Had an email from Corinne Coriat, who is Natalie Blaze aide, and she wanted to schedule a time for our new state rep, Natalie Blaze, to come to a meeting. So it looks like she'll be here on February 8th, and she'd like to have a conversation with the board, a two-way conversation to discuss priorities, legislation, and budget requests for the coming year. Last but not least, and a little bit of good news, Pioneer AD and our own Recreation Commissioner, Carrie Baird, is reviving Pioneer Basketball's Buddy Day, where Bernardston and Northfield rec basketball players will be able to practice with the Pioneer varsity teams. She's still working on a date for that, but I know the Pioneer boys varsity just lost their first game the other night, but they're off to a 6-1 start, so that's great. The co-op Green Wave hockey program is 6-3, so that's pretty good too.
Let's move on.
And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
How about contacting the engineers for the garage project?
Done.
See if we can get something on that.
Contacted them today, Stan.
And the other thing is, gentlemen, I've asked Lou to reach out to Jen over to the senior center to see if we can come up with some sort of a date or time that we can sit over there with the seniors and get their concerns. We're coming into a pretty tough year, and especially into next year is not going to be any better. And they're not coming to us, so if we go to them, maybe they talk now. And I also asked Lou to tell Jen that we don't want to go over there just for 2 or 3 people. Try to get us the people that want to.
Monday nights they have it on their calendar. They bring people in for special events, and they feed them. They get a tremendous turnout, so that might be something you target to ask Jen about that.
And if you guys are willing, I mean,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
It's there to ask us questions.
Yep.
We'll answer them the best we can. If we can't answer them, we'll get the information for them. But I think it would be great.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Jen this afternoon, she was very excited about it. So adding to the potential dates could be the Monday dinners. She was a little concerned about people coming out after dark, but
These start early.
how early, Ken?
I don't know.
It is early.
Yeah.
All right.
3:30? I don't know what time it is.
I don't want to get myself in trouble, but yeah.
All right, I'll follow up with Jen tomorrow, and we'll.
What time do they start on the Monday thing?
Well, I
That's what I don't know. I just know the turnout is substantial. So whatever it
bring
is,
up their newsletter,
Yes, ma'am.
and then you can tell them what.
there you go. That's where it is.
Well, just ask her if Monday would work. If
Or
Mondays would work.
you let her pick. She's smarter than we are as far as scheduling her seniors. But yeah, we want a turnout.
And Monday is usually, if I don't drive, my daughter comes with me, kind of situation.
Yep. Yeah, all kinds of people show up.
Right.
It's not just seniors, but.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.